Welcome to How to Suck at Recording. We have a very special guest today for our interview, the artist Anthony Janas, and we are here with Dan, of course, as well. And
hello.
This is me, Britain Weather.
So, Anthony, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well as well.
Excellent.
So, Anthony just released his new album in December. We're taking a listen to one of the tracks called Prelude to a Fictitious Film. Anthony works in experimental electronic music concrete, neo-folk, psychedelic noise, Chicago. I basically just read the tags off his Bandcamp for this record, and I think those are pretty good tags.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, so
I like to think so.
It's like I came up with this. Come on.
I actually did not.
was that okay? So maybe we should mention this is out on the Nihilist label. It's a noise label out of Chicago, founded in 1992 by Mr. Andy Ortman.
Mm-hmm. So much last names. Your anonymity is done now.
Hey, I don't think anyone wants the anonymity here as a musician. You know.
You also the name of the album is called Lucifer, Scooby Do, and Me.
Do you want to talk about that title maybe? Like what was the impetus for that?
Well, one reviewer figured it out, so I might as well explain. So there's a industrial band from the 80s called the Cassandra Project, and they had an album called Satan, Bugs Bunny, and Me. I found it at a record shop in New Mexico, and I wasn't familiar with the Cassandra Project. So what people normally do now is, I went on YouTube and I listened to a track through my phone, and I thought it sounded really good. And so I bought the tape, and then I took it home and I listened to it, and I'm like, man, this is terrible. It was like industrial music meets Roxy music, but not in a good way.
Like sans Brian Eno.
Sans Brian Eno, Brian Ferry, Phil Manzanera. Yeah, and I wasn't really into it, but I really, really, really liked the name a lot. And Andy Ortman asked me to do another release on Nihilist, and I was trying to come up with album titles. So I'm like, I thought about that one, and I'm like, I'm going to change it. So I came up with Lucifer, and then Scooby Do, because I think Scooby Doo's more satanic than Bugs Bunny, and then the Me part. So that's how that happened. The title.
I do like the Scooby Doo part too. I recommend that.
It's a talking dog who only speaks to stoners. One particular stoner.
Exactly.
Who also
solve crimes from like generally bad people who may or may not be in satanic cults.
Chase ghosts.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I thought it was a good title, even though I stole it. But I really didn't. I just reformatted it.
It's attribution, yeah.
Yeah, attribution. And you were open with the attribution about it, too. And after it was figured out, it wasn't like you were trying to be sly about it.
No. Not in the least. And I just thought the title deserved a better album, and I think I provided it.
Yeah. So. No, I definitely would agree with that. I'm not super familiar with the Cassandra Project, but the way you described it just sounded very grating.
Yeah. Do not look into it.
I was just trying to look into it, and
you're just like, I'm not.
Nothing came up. I realized I was looking at the wrong browser and showing like my personal like YouTube and stuff, which I do not want.
Whoopsie doodle. Okay,
so that last one is very sort of pad oriented, if I'm remembering correct. I know you're sort of you like your modular synths.
Oh yeah,
quite a bit. Do you want to talk about like what type of stuff you were using on that track and the album in general?
That track actually has little to none modular synthesizer on it. Actually,
okay.
The main synthesizer used on that one is a Yamaha TX81Z.
Ooh, the rack mount.
The rack mount. I got it
DX,
for free as a birthday present.
It's a great rack mount, especially if you got it. That's a good gift. It's definitely a good gift.
Really good gift. I got it on my 30th birthday. Best gift.
Man, I like regularly look for those, because they're definitely like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, that's
I've
what
seen
you
these.
want. You don't want like a DX7. You just want that.
No, the programming is too cumbersome. I did invest and got a controller for it as well. So I think on that track, what you're basically hearing is just a very simple sequencer, a couple passes of a sequencer going into it, and I'm modulating that in real time.
So
And then continue. Sorry.
no, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just having a question. So were you doing this recording into like a DAW, or were you recording into some maybe tape first, or what was the main medium when you were kind of like tracking this out?
Everything was into the computer, into a DAW, and I switched over for this recording. I used to use Mac, and then for Lucifer tape, I switched to PC, and then a buddy of mine got me hooked on Reaper. So everything's Reaper.
This is you're like just now becoming Dan's best friend.
Yeah. I switched over to Reaper on the past I don't know, about a year or so from Sonar, which doesn't even exist anymore.
I'm holding on to Ableton, man. I'm keeping the ghost alive.
It's pretty good, man.
I like Reaper. Recording onto a PC laptop onto Reaper right now.
There you go.
Bam.
Are you doing any sort of like manipulations within Reaper?
Very little. I mean, I'm doing tons of editing.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it. When you mean manipulation, what do you refer to?
Well, I mean, most modern DAWs now have like stretching or reversing, and different. I know Reaper comes with a bunch of different algorithms for both changing pitch and changing speed, and doing it together and independently or whatever.
That TCE.
I have a couple plugins I use for all that. So I just kind of I try to keep my time on the computer as little as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that.
Just because there's just too many possibilities, and I end up having like a folder with like 10 to 14 different versions of the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I try to make it as quick as possible and little as possible, even though I do a lot of splicing and editing and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, just classic sort of electronic manipulation.
Yeah.
Like it's on tape. What kind of plugins are you using these days?
Anything I can get for free.
Yeah?
Though.
I know all about that.
Say what?
I know all about that.
Yeah. Free's my favorite color. I really like what's his name? Tom Erb.
Tom Erb? I've never
from
heard.
SoundHack. He had that he had a free plugin back in the day that was not real-time processing, and then he eventually ported it all over, and then he sells them on his website. I really recommend them. He actually hooked up with a modular manufacturer called Make Noise, and he designs modules for them as well.
I like Make Noise. They make some decent stuff for sure.
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar with this stuff. I'll have to check it out. We're taking a look at it right now. We do have a video element to this, and it's basically me just on the internet looking around.
Exciting.
Yes. So, is that about it as far as plugins go, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple here and there, but it's nothing really exciting. I don't know.
Have you ever heard of Air Windows? I'm kind of a proponent of this guy.
Excuse me. No, I'm not familiar with it.
You should check it out. It's this kind of like genius guy who makes these free plugins that have no UI whatsoever, and it's mostly like for mixing and stuff.
Okay.
But he's got some nice like reverb as well. It's kind of like a secret weapon, I think.
Yeah, my big one on that is two tape. I'm a big fan of two tape.
Yeah, he's got a good tape emulation, good console emulation.
Yeah, it warms up. It warms it up pretty good
Nice.
without making it sound too baked, if you know what I mean.
Gotcha. I totally get you.
Which gets us into this whole thing. So you're using this old Yamaha FM synthesis module for the main point of this, and then you were doing a lot of recording into Reaper. What are some of the other elements that kind of like led to the creative composition of this, as far as like soundscapes and all and the concrete kind of like nature of it?
Of that track?
Yeah.
Well, like anything, like, you know, the keep stuff. I originally envisioned the album to be like I was visualizing like if you're at a really nice dinner party and there's waiters with all these different little hors d'oeuvres going by, and you're taking a little bit there, and then you're taking a little bit there, taking a little bit there. I wanted a lot of variety. I wanted a lot of appetizers. That's why the tracks are so short, because I wanted to try to keep things as fresh and engaging. I didn't want to make long drawn. A lot of them probably could have been longer compositions, but I chose not to do that. I thought brevity would be a smarter approach.
I really appreciate that in experimental music in general. You know.
Oh yeah. I've been to way too many concerts where the first 5 minutes I'm blown away at the timbres and what the person's doing, and then by the 35-minute mark, you're still hearing the same damn thing, and I'm like, please move on. You know, you don't have 35 minutes of ideas. You maybe had 20, but not 35.
I really do. I do like that principle. I think that's a really very insightful thing to understand, that as people's attention spans are just inherently getting shorter, to kind of keep your ideas to creatively in sync with that, you know.
Well, yes and no. Like, part of me does not want to succumb to people's attention spans. I believe in the brevity because I don't know, maybe I had to have a low sense of ego, but I don't. As a critic, I don't think it's 35 minutes of ideas.
Interesting.
That's how I see it. I've noticed as I've gotten older, my live sets have gotten longer, maybe a minute every year or so. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's this having a critical ear, and maybe I'm too critical, but I don't know. That's how I see it. And as an audience member, I want to go on a little trip. I don't want to I want to go on a little voyage where I go to the demented haunted house. I go into the psychedelic field. I'm underwater now. You know, I'm being shot with electricity. You know, I want a sonic narrative, dynamic narrative.
I definitely think I definitely got that from listening to this release.
So this last track, which of those settings would you say it's supposed to take the listener to?
Well, geez, I don't want to force anything down anyone's throat. Where
you don't have to answer that if you don't want.
I mean, I thought the title itself implied it.
Yeah. It takes you to an old cinema or something like that.
Yeah,
if you're about to
like
watch a B movie or something.
Yeah, personally, I was seeing I thought I was like inside a little some aerial Werner Herzog shot or something. That's how I saw it.
Right on.
I don't know.
That's now you'd call that a drone shot.
Or a drone shot. Exactly.
Man, I love Werner Herzog.
I still want to see his Bad Lieutenant. I got to get to that.
That's the best.
That is a good one.
I saw the original Bad Lieutenant, like not knowing the situation where like Herzog didn't even read the old script or anything. Mm-hmm. And when I heard that, I was just like, yeah, I really want to.
He's a fascinating creature, isn't he?
Definitely.
He is.
Anyway.
I recommend listening to his commentary tracks.
Oh, dude, they're so good. I've listened to a couple of them, not on all movies, but the ones that I have heard. He's got interesting insight to these things.
Yeah. If you want to feel like a giant loser, read his book too that he wrote.
Oh yeah.
his biography, because he's like, when I was 19, or 18, I went to the movie production house and I asked them, give me money for my film. They laughed at me. So I just made my own production company. I did whatever I had to do. And I did it. And I was 19 years old and I had my own film production company. And I'm like, Jesus, when I was 19, I could barely get myself out of bed, you know?
Yeah, I remember Werner Herzog Eats His Shoe. That one, I forget the other filmmakers, but I think it was Errol Morris.
Errol Morris was in that one.
He made a bet with either Errol Morris or another documentarian I can't think of. And like, but anyway, if you want to sound or feel like a loser, listen to what he has to say there. He's just like, if you don't go out and make your film, you are just a loser.
I think it's really...
You must have courage to go out and do it.
I love these impressions of Werner Herzog. That
wasn't a very good one.
No, they're like, it's very like, there is this style of his speaking is very, nasally, I think. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's a bit hypnotizing.
Yeah. Anyways, this album itself took some time for you to make.
Yes.
About 6 years. Do you want to kind of go into maybe what happened in that process lightly or otherwise, just like why it took maybe 6 years in a lapse of releasing things?
Well, there was a lapse in releasing because I was renovating a house, so I didn't really have much time to make music so much. I was still performing live and stuff, but not recording much. I think in the liner notes I started 2 years ago because I think I mentioned I switched to PC and then my computer crashed in the process and I didn't back anything up. So I took the hard drive in, I got it recovered, some of it in fragments, and it actually was a blessing in disguise because the original version of the album was basically done. I kind of took that as a sign to kind of I had some rough mixes and then I would listen to them and I couldn't convince myself that they were ready. So I say about 90% of the album was completely reworked. There's like fragments of the original album hidden throughout it, but for the most part, you can't. It's completely new and different. So,
did you kind of look back at what you lost and then kind of use that as a propelling like spot forward to kind of like create new writing space or do some things that you wanted to do or maybe do over better?
Yeah, I saw. Now in hindsight, I view the computer crashing as my subconscious rejecting what I tried to convince myself as acceptable.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
It's an interesting part of a process for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, and it kind of works into this type of music. I mean, of course, it probably was not ideal, but I just want to say what I found about this record in general was just the clearness of all the sounds. A lot of the time on experimental and musique concrète stuff, you got a lot of. Sometimes people try and go for like a really like lo-fi sound. I mean, while there are lo-fi elements to this, there's just like a clearness, and every element is sort of separated in its own sort of space. And I really actually enjoyed that. It was nice to hear it that way.
Oh, thank you. I think that comes from being in like rock and roll bands.
Oh yeah.
And just trying to break down each element of the recording as, high, middle, and low frequencies, and trying to assign certain timbres and where they operate better, to make it seem to make it fuller, like what a live band does, when it's recorded well.
Right on. Well, we've been going on for quite a while, and I think we should listen to more music.
Okay.
I think next I'd like to talk about music for commercial cleaning products. So here it is from the album Lucifer, Scooby Do, and Me by Anthony Janas. Here we go. right, so the way I would describe that, like there's a sequence going on, and then just like sort of like there's stuff on top of it and interruptions. I gave it an adjective in my notes, bouncy, for the sequence. It's kind of a bouncy sequence. So what was your approach, and what kind of stuff were you using on this one?
The main sequence that was recovered from when the computer crashed.
Okay.
The original version, it was really too simplified. I had some like manipulated voice, and it was supposed to be kind of just like a little in between track, and I thought it deserved a little bit more. What else about it? All the little bouncy weird stuff was recorded, overdubbed live, and the way to keep it in sync, I used a breath controller for all like the car sounds.
Oh wow!
So that's me controlling the envelope with my breath.
Oh, cool.
Interesting.
That's why some of them are kind of off, but I left them that way. I didn't want them synced up.
Yeah, I've used MIDI breath controllers. I have one, but it's a really weird one that I found in a basement that I was clearing out of this house. It's a whole story.
What is that? Isn't it made by Yamaha, the one you have, or it's like this saxophone essentially?
Yeah, I forget what it is. I haven't used it in years just because it has this weird like you need to plug it into this pack. It has this like weird controller. It's not coming up right now.
Yeah, that is the one you have is really, it's weird. It's basically like a digital saxophone.
Do you know offhand which one you're using?
I am using one. It's a little 1U module called Breath Controller.
What did you say? 1U?
1U.
1U.
It's like a little tile.
Breath. Because I'm looking for it online right now, just to get a picture of it.
I don't have a computer near me. I don't even know what the brand is.
Oh, that's all right. What is the breath controller actually like controlling? It's some sort of just noise generator?
It's just controlling a VCA, and then the sound source, I believe, was a mutable instrument braids, which is a module that can emulates a whole bunch of different oscillators.
I see.
I couldn't tell you what setting it was on. I think it was on a whole bunch of them.
So this is another this is a Eurorack module?
It's a Eurorack module. It was very, very popular at the time. I still love it.
It looks like there's a soft tube version. That's Clouds.
That's funny.
There's a soft tube version of Braids as well. The guy, I forgot his name, is Olivier something. He's from France, and he makes all his stuff open source.
Wow.
So he makes all the hardware open source?
Everything's open sourced, yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's interesting.
That's great.
Yeah, that's a good thing to do, I think.
Yeah, I'm for it.
Yeah, I mean, people have taken his designs and made them smaller and smaller, and I don't know. It
gets the programming and building community involved in a big way when you can get. I mean, it makes community. That's such an important thing in for internet marketers and brands, if you will.
Well, even Arturia is using some of his software now, and one of their newest synths they just released at NAMM, I believe.
Wow. Oh wow, yeah, it's interesting. So did you see anything at we were doing like just a bunch of stuff on NAMM recently. I'm wondering if you saw anything at NAMM that caught your eye.
No. No, someone remade the Optagon, which was pretty neat. That was about it, but it's cost like $5,000. So.
The old.
That's the vinyl version of the Mellotron.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But no, there was. It's all neat and stuff, but like I don't know. It's gear is gear. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think that you need everything, you need the best, whatever. It helps, it makes things easier, but I mean, it's a cliche, but the creativity is all what really matters. So,
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Different musicians like find the gear. I mean, me and Britton, for example, whole reason we're doing this podcast is because we're particularly into the gear. We used to sell it. We went to school for it.
mm-hmm.
So we kind of nerd out on it a bit.
Yeah, we did fun.
Yeah, but
Oh yeah, the talking about, you'll find me at a party in the corner with a bunch of people and just talking about gear, and
Yeah.
it gets a little ridiculous. So, I don't know. I've been forcing myself not to engage in it as much. But
Yeah.
I think that's part of the idea for us. It's just like,
My wife won't listen to me talk about this stuff. I mean,
this is like our outlet so that when we do go out, we aren't those guys.
that's weird.
right,
Those
that makes
weird
sense.
Or less of those guys.
What I'm more fascinated about is technique of and how you're using your gear rather than what the gear does.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. And modular used to be more like that, because if you needed a random generator, well, you took a white noise generator and you fed it into a sample and hold, and then you can slew your sample, your random sample and hold, and create a variation of that randomness. But modular is getting more and more where the patching is already done for you on the circuit board, and then they sell you that product.
So yeah, how do you feel more like? Have you seen like the more like Korgs and teenage engineering stuff that are doing these modular things that have a few patch points? Do you feel like that's kind of the trend that you're speaking of?
The trend is more going towards DSP, because I don't know how many times you can redesign the wheel and redesign a triangle core oscillator. You can make a couple extra convenience things in it, but other than that, I don't really know where the trend's going. But it's becoming more patching, the designers doing the patching for you and selling the product, selling that patch as a module, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, you're getting the random generator in a module, so you really just patch in and patch out, as opposed to doing the patches to build the actual random generator.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So and it's interesting that you're kind of talking about that, because I haven't really thought about that. I do follow some modular synthesis stuff, but I haven't been like following maybe necessarily the trends. There are some cool DSP things going on, but do you think it's weakening maybe the creativity by creating these kind of like all-in-one units for your Euro rack or whatever?
Yes and no. Creating a product that already has the patching, quote unquote, in the circuit board, it's making things more affordable, so you don't have to spend a ton of money on a bunch of simple things and then having to build it yourself. So it's allowing more people to get engaged with it. On the other side, it's more about what this module does rather than what I do with all these modules.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I'm just looking at a list of
I see what you're saying.
Tons of modules, and like I can totally see what you're saying. Just like here's an Eventide Euro DDL Euro rack delay module. Here is a 1010 Music Bitbox Euro rack performance sampler with touchscreen. Pittsburgh modular microvolt 3900 semi-modular analog synthesizer. So there's a whole synthesizer that you're putting into your modular rig.
Right. Yeah. I think the good thing with the DSP stuff is happening now is actually the sampler modules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that does look cool.
I actually got that Bitbox module, and
you do.
There's none of it on the record. But that thing, what I do now is I just go on eBay and I just buy sound effect CDs, or I just record crap at home, and I'll just slow it and speed it up, and it just makes it very convenient. And then within the modular format, I can stay away from the computer, and it's a convenience for me. Could I do it on a computer? Yeah. But I prefer, like I said before, I prefer to stay away from the computer.
It does look really cool. Do you use this more like kind of for your live stuff?
No. What I'll do is I'll prepare a recording, and then I'll put it actually into another sampler on my live system, and then I'll manipulate it that way.
Oh, all right.
So,
Well, I mean, I understand some of the insight that you've just thrown down to us about.
Yeah, neither of us do modular
No.
at all, so it's really interesting to hear you talk about that.
Absolutely. Maybe let's speaking of your process, let's kind of get back to the whole deal with your lovely album, and we were talking about music for commercial cleaning products.
Yeah, we were moving on to the composition for boxwood recorder, and I think we should talk about this before, and then we'll go out on that.
okay. Composition for boxwood recorder was that was the last thing I made for the record. I was working on something else, and then I played it. I was really into it. I listened to it a bunch, and then I thought it was really boring. And then I remembered my friend telling me that he got this really amazing kind of medieval recorder that he just purchased, and I'm like, ooh, that would be a really nice contrast to everything else going on the album. So I asked him to record some stuff, and then gave it to me, and then I started putting it together, and then the piece I decided, and then I manipulated the piece, and then I started composing it, and then I just started adding more and more stuff to it, and it kind of became what it is. So there was the recorder, which is being modulated in very simple ways by like a morphogene. I know there's a lot of ring modulation done to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's also I used kind of a 1960s style where I cut up a bunch of tape of this Bollywood cassette I had that finally broke, and I took them. I have this module called a magnetic phone, which is basically a tape head with a preamplifier behind the module, and then I just ran the tape head over the tape to create all those. In the middle part, there's like bloop, 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 all those like kind of squeaky sounds.
Mm.
That's what's part of it. Is that part of it is doing the same thing but digitally, and then there's like some droning in it, which is a clone of a Buchla oscillator I built a while back.
Oh, so did you get a kit for that, or did you kind of just like get some plans off the internet and go for that?
I got it. I bought the boards off of a friend.
Oh, okay.
So, and then I just wired. I just bought the parts and wired it up.
Well,
So-
the parts were just from a previous machine, or?
No. I ordered them all online, like on Mauser and stuff, and then populated the board.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we're going to listen to that in just a minute, but before we go, I just want to say you can check out the new record from Anthony Janas at nihilisticrecordings.bandcamp.com. It's called Lucifer, Scooby Do, and Me. Is there anywhere else you'd like to point the listeners to?
No, that's about it. I'll also mention that you can purchase. There's 3 formats you can purchase.
Yes.
The record. You can get a cassette version, you can get a digital version, or you can get the album in the form of a shower curtain.
Whoa. All right.
For $40.
For $40, you can get a shower curtain version. Of
You get it on vinyl.
Scooby Doo and Me. Yes, you do get it vinyl. Non-playable, but still vinyl nonetheless.
Oh, wow. So what? So
It's just it's a shower curtain.
it's just a shower curtain
It's literally a shower curtain.
for $40. What was the idea of doing? Oh my God, that's great.
We're looking at the pictures right now.
That's
yeah.
That's amazing.
it's you looking. It's pictures of you on the shower curtain, in the shower.
In the shower. And then you
You're
get
in the shower.
Obviously, you get a digital version with the shower curtain with the
That's correct.
Yeah.
with the limited edition vinyl, so to speak.
That's the deluxe version. That's a pretty cheeky but interesting way to do it.
I dig
I
it.
appreciate it. All right.
Thank you.
Tony, thanks so much for being on How to Suck at Recording. And here it is, composition for Boxwood Recorder. Okay, cool.
All right.
Ah.
Yeah, we did about. We're knocking on 40 minutes door there.
Well, that's pretty good. You got a lot to work with.
Yeah, that's. I mean, usually I don't do a whole heck of a lot of editing, but we'll see what happens.
Cool.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much.
No problem, guys. Thank you.
No problem, dude. And keep rocking, dude. That
You got
stuff's
any
good.
shows coming up?
No, I just did a small little thing in New York on Monday. I don't have anything lined up. I'm doing a split with Did you ever know Jeremiah Fisher? I'm working on a split tape with him.
I don't think so.
It's going to be on Reserve Manatee, which is John Daniels Forest Management's label.
Yeah.
And that's really all what I have going. I'm waiting to hear back from some grants. And then I'm doing a covers record, a Demented covers record with Bo Wanzer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We've been... Last night we were working on a really fucked up version of Don't Worry, Be Happy.
Oh, man.
And then we were doing I'm Your Puppet. And yeah, that's it. That one's going to be really fucking weird.
That sounds very strange.
Yeah. It's gonna be a good one. I'm looking forward to it.
Exciting. Very, very exciting.
Cool, guys.
Later.
Have a good evening, man.
All right, take care.
You too.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Peace.
All right.
Very good.